So Labour, Adam, you mentioned this, and I think it's a really important point. Labour has softened key policies in its overhaul of workers' rights in response to business fears about the cost impact of their plans. Now, you mentioned this. He's planning the most extensive overhaul of workers' rights in a generation, including cracking down on zero-hours contracts and giving employees enhanced protections from day one in a job. As Renee says, businesses have expressed fears the measures will raise costs, increase pressure and hamper the economic recovery. Now, one of the things that caught my eye this morning is this right to disconnect, through which employees would have been entitled not to be contacted by their bosses outside their working hours. Workers, they say, will have a new right to disconnect from work outside working hours and not be contacted by their employer outside working hours. As a businessman and an entrepreneur, what do you make of that?
Well, the whole thing, I think, is dangerous and worrying. I think when you zone in and focus on specific policies that can help, where does this become a priority? I don't understand how this is a priority of the Labour government. I think we're already in a society where people are being encouraged, and the working mentality, the work ethic has been declining. You know, it's declined massively since COVID. People with the working from home. Now people apply for jobs. When they apply for jobs, they say, "Do I have to come in? Oh, can I work from home?" Like, we've already got all of this stuff going on. It's madness. It is literally madness for an employer that when we now go to recruit and we are building a business, people go, do you want me there? You know, oh yeah, I do want it. Oh, and I do want more money, but no, I don't want to come in. Like, you have got some mental stuff going on. And then Labour come in and go, oh, also give them the right to disconnect, or give them this and give them that. It is absolute madness.
When Labour first came in, most recently in 97,
why is this an area of concern?
All businesses said, oh, these crazy ideas like the minimum wage are going to ruin businesses. It's going to be so terrible. Now it's a right. It's accepted, and it didn't ruin business.
But I tell you what, minimum wage and the increasing of minimum wage is putting pressure on businesses. Businesses are struggling. I train thousands of businesses, and there are business owners that are concerned about employing people. The minimum wage is skyrocketing, which then is going to affect people's pricing, which is
Let's just go back to the right to disconnect.
What I think about this is I don't feel so strongly about the right to disconnect, because I do think people have a right to their own life and to not be harassed outside of work. But that does depend on them actually going to work and doing the job that they're meant to do.
I kind of agree with Renee on this, because I think it's about creating a happy medium. I'm personally of the view that I like being in the office, and I think especially for more junior colleagues, the way COVID and the way we've shifted to a lot of areas just being digitally in these kind of meetings, it takes a huge amount of strain, because what would become a 2-minute chat of, oh, can you just show me how to do that in the computer? Oh yeah, come here, I'll show you how it's done. Is now, oh, let me schedule in a Zoom meeting with you so I can show you how to do this.
So
no one wants that. But hang on.
Yeah.
In terms of the right to disconnect, I think there has to be a medium with that, because in previous generations, you didn't have the technology of a boss WhatsApping you. You used to have landlines, and it would be a very rare thing for a boss to call your home on a landline. It'd have to be a real emergency. So it's about reapplying that. And I think, you know, this is something that's been tried and tested in a lot of other European countries like Ireland, where there's a kind of reasonableness of saying, look, I might not get back to you because I'm off and I'm entitled to my time off. And I think it's finding that happy medium where some businesses
it's
can't
an employee
exploit
market, though. Let me tell you, it's an employee market. And if you are a mad boss that is mentally going after your people outside of hours, they ain't going to work for you anyway. That's the reality. But if you need a little bit of just information that is critical to a small business in a moment. When you have a small business, you have 10 people running a business, each person retains information that is critical to the running of that business. If that person is uncontactable, it creates a massive strain on a small business. So I think that if you put a rule in that says that you can't do that, then that's a real issue for a business owner. But I think business owners generally should be respectful of their employees' time and build a good culture.
I agree with that.
Yes, and I think, David, what this risks doing, Labour's plans, actually risks taking us to the same kind of employment scenario that France have. And basically in France, you can never fire anyone. It doesn't matter how useless they are. It's jobs for life. What that does is it gets rid of a meritocracy because people don't need to try. No, exactly. And actually that's terrifying.
But isn't France a stronger economy than ours?
I'll have to check that.
Yeah,
I
I'd
think
have
it
to
is
check that.
just, but I think it is. But
I was
think-
going to say we're pretty much on parity, in fact.
But I think it's.
But you can't put that down to one thing. anyway,
can't put
no.
that down to one thing.
But hang on a minute, there's the point. So particularly, I'm freelance, right? So everyone contacts me the whole time.
Yeah.
So, and I've run a small business,
Yeah.
and I totally agree with what you say. But actually, this doesn't necessarily need legislation, does it? It needs respect.
I
That
think
underpins
where
this.
there are very good business owners and people that do take those into account, that's fine. You probably don't need it, but there will always be people who exploit.
But I
and there
think
will
the
always
employee
be-
will vote with their feet.
Okay,
right?
but then-
Because
But
But
it's-
Lorin, is this not like risk in the world? You know, we're trying now to legislate for
Yeah,
everything
exactly.
and take risk out of
But there has
everybody's
to be.
life.
I think
You
there has to be.
can't.
But there has to be, especially when it comes to an important area like employment. There has to be basic levels of protection, and where bosses are seen
There's
to not
more than
provide
basic
it,
levels of protection
but there
right
isn't
now.
when people.
There's huge amounts of
but
protection,
when they're-
and they want to increase, and Labour want to focus on this area.
Yes, the Party of
but as
Workers
running
wants to
a-
focus on workers' rights. not
Already
horror.
running a business, it is difficult enough when you're bringing employees in. There's a lot of small business owners that are terrified to employ people, terrified, which then stops the economy growing, and putting more of these rules in place just makes you
Terrified
suffer
to
more.
employ young
Yeah.
women.
Yeah,
Okay,
totally.
I'm going to pause it there. I just want to ask you very quickly on the back of Jonathan Ross revealing he sometimes showers less than once a week. How often should anyone shower? I read this. Apparently, Jonathan Ross doesn't shower. He actually showers less than once a week.
Disgusting.
His
Disgusting.
wife Jane Goldman, the scriptwriter, also goes for days without showering. He went for 2 weeks without washing in the US because, wait for this, Renee, he'd been in a swimming pool. How often should you shower?
I think that's someone's personal choice. I shower twice a day is what I shower, but it's up
You
to
don't wanna go and-
what people
especially if
want
you're
to
in
do.
London and you sort of go in and come back and don't want the tube in your bedsheets. No,
I think
you've got
you
to
should
shower.
shower.
We're
or
agreement
wash.
on this anyway,
Yeah,
right?
shower or wash every day. I
At
don't
least-
think it has to be either. I think twice a day I think is silly.
Twice a day moisturise is my view.
Right, on that note, thank you very much, you clean bunch.